June, a female found out that my parents sold their house more than 7 years ago and then they rented it from the new owners. They sold it so that they could settle my brother's gambling debt and other debts, as there were people constantly coming to the house to harass our parents, and so settling his debt. And these were some really bad people. And then the landlord put up the rent to nearly double and my parents just couldn't afford it. My mother only told me the truth about their circumstances after suddenly weeping when I told her that I was planning a family trip for her birthday. My father was embarrassed and could barely look me in the eyes as my mother wept uncontrollably at the state of their life. I told them there was no point in being ashamed and that we needed to devise a plan. At the moment, we are living in my 2-bedroom apartment. They get the big bedroom and I've converted my little office into my bedroom and their stuff is in storage until I can find us a new place. Of course, I wasn't going to let my parents go homeless. And so I told them that they could move in with me permanently. I was already in the process of buying a house. And so I've started to be more serious in my pursuit. At the time, my parents explained the situation to my brother. I told him I didn't have space for him, but that I'd be willing to give him money for a deposit. And first 6 months to help him get on his feet, he agreed. In the meantime, he's been staying at his girlfriend's. I found him several places and even applied for them. He told me he had found a place on his own that he preferred. Now I don't trust my brother with money, so I told him I would only give the money directly to his new landlord. I saw the place, it looks legit and everything was in order. So I sent the money to the landlord not a day later. And my dad got a text from my brother's girlfriend asking him where he was. My father spoke to her and yes, as you might have already guessed, he ran away with the money. It turns out the landlord was his friend. And the only reason we know is because his girlfriend was angry. He didn't share the money with her. Then last Friday, he called to say he messed up and that he was in trouble for destroying a hotel room, that his girlfriend won't let him stay with her anymore and that he has nowhere to go. I told him I didn't care and hung up. My parents are heartbroken and worried about him. I heard them talking in private and basically they're too scared to voice their opinion for fear. I might kick them out. I don't want my parents to be afraid of me and I want them to be comfortable. I feel like this is the only right way to deal with my brother. Am I the idiot for not letting him crash on the couch? Everyone's the idiot here. He took your money and ran. When you did him a massive favor, he betrayed your trust. He basically stole your money in what amounted to a confidence scheme. I would talk to your parents though and tell them you're not going to kick them out for their opinions, but that your stance on this isn't going to change. Your parents are enabling him and that's only going to make it worse. Why homeless prison is free of charge? I think. Sorry for being cynical. Your brother is the type of person that sucks people in who come too close to him like a black hole. Stay away. He has a real potential to also wreck your life after your parents and perhaps his girlfriends. Even if you wanted to help him right now, you simply have no space in your apartment and I'm sure your financial resources are not unlimited either. He needs to figure this out by himself. Is it possible to recoup the money through legal means? Can he be charged for presenting a false front to claim the money? It was basically fraud and you know, both parties stay strong. A gambler is always a gambler. They rarely change even if they're no longer gambling money. Trust me, it took me 13 years to see it with my ex. If it's not money, it's trust or lives or other things. Even if you help him, he's going to relapse. He needs a hard and harsh wake up. I don't think your problem is your brother. It's your parents. Why are they afraid of you? Because you've let your brother suffer the consequences of his own behavior. I think you really need to have a talk with them about everyone's expectations of them living with you. Do you think they'll invite your brother to stay with them during the day when you get a house and go to work? Why are they so involved with your brother who literally cost them their own home? Once your brother's in jail, that'll solve his housing problem. And maybe parents will realize he's the only person who created his problems and he's the only one who can fix them. Story 2. My partner, 31 female and I 28 male recently roved the underground. My partner's 8 months pregnant and looks heavily pregnant too. No one could mistake her for being any different. She's not particularly mobile either right now and we've taken to riding the underground more even for shorter journeys. Just to allow her to rest more frequently when we're out and about, we jumped on the Circle line today. And it was a particularly busy service during the rush hour with people packed in tightly. And standing throughout the aisle on trips like this, I would look for one of the nearby priority seats reserved near the doors and would ask someone to vacate it to allow my partner to sit down on all occasions. Up until now, we never had a problem. Those who were sitting in the seats could see my partner would struggle to stand on a busy train and would give up the seat without hesitation. On this particular day, one of the seats was occupied by an elderly gentleman with a walking stick, probably mid-80s, and one by a younger man, probably mid-20s. I make what I think is my best judgment call and ask the younger man if he would give up the seat for my partner. He replies that he has autism, and that his disability allows him to use a priority seat too. I understand that people have less visible disabilities and should be allowed to use the priority seat under normal circumstances. However, I also felt that despite this, it wasn't a physical impairment and he was more capable of standing than my partner who had been standing up for a very long time and really needed to rest. At this point, when I tried to explain this to him, he became very defensive and called me an idiot for not appreciating his needs too. Eventually others began to overhear what was being said and someone else voluntarily offered up a normal seat. But the experience left me wondering if I was the idiot for insisting this person needed a priority seat less than my girlfriend. So am I the idiot for asking someone with an invisible or non-physical disability to vacate a priority seat for my heavily pregnant partner? You are the idiot asking was fine arguing. Makes you the idiot unless you are that specific person's care provider and are 100% certain of their limitations. Your opinion and observations mean crap. I have an invisible disability and people like you are the bane of my existence. If your partner's that tired and unwell, get a cab, wait for a less busy train, whatever. Exactly. None of us is equipped to determine what a stranger can or can't do next time. Do what I did when I was pregnant. Move on to the people in the regular seats and ask if they'll let your girlfriend sit down. Bro, is there a list printed somewhere that ranks which disabilities have the most priority on priority seating? You're arguing with someone who you said should be allowed to use the priority seat about your version of a priority system that doesn't exist. Equal rights, bro. He said, no, you didn't respect his answer. That's why you are the idiot. Story 3. I, female 18, will be starting my first year of university in late September. My university has a program that allows international students to arrive in August and stay in uni accommodation to help them settle in. I took advantage of that and arrived a few days ago. One of my housemates, Neve, female 19, is from California. I was extremely excited to find out that Neve is doing Spanish as well. My course doesn't require us to be fluent when we apply, so I guess levels will vary. I know we will be divided based on abilities for language classes, but we will have cultural and history classes together. We were trying to chat in Spanish, but it turns out Novella's level is very basic and she couldn't hold a conversation. No biggie. Mine is a bit higher as I've had Spanish in school since the age of 10 along with English. But while I didn't have an issue with Neve's Spanish, she had an issue with mine over the years. Most of my teachers were native speakers and my accent is heavily influenced by Colombian Spanish. It's nowhere near perfect, but I tried my best to pronounce it correctly. Neve's accent is heavily influenced by English including double vowels, etc. I thought it was just because she's a beginner, but it turns out it's on purpose and she refuses to learn proper pronunciation. When she heard my accent, she berated me for using it. She scolded me and told me I should speak in my own accent, and that it's cultural appropriation to learn native accents. I tried to explain to her. I tried to tell her that even our course has pronunciation classes which we have to pass. Unfortunately, she wouldn't listen and would talk over me. It's like she didn't want to have a conversation with me. She just wanted to hear herself speak and have me nod and agree with everything she says. I told her again to butt off and leave my accent alone. And she called me racist for appropriating an accent. And I told her she's crazy and left the room. Sadly, turns out she recorded our conversation and threatens to send it to our university because I called her crazy. And it's offensive. Was that really the idiot for calling her crazy? I'm worried that I was in the wrong and I don't see it and I'll lose my uni place. I'm sorry, but your roommate does not sound very smart at all. You're not appropriating an accent, you're pronouncing the language correctly. She just doesn't like that. You're making her look and sound like the ignoramus. She is. Let us share that recorded conversation with everybody and I guarantee the majority of people, if not, everyone will say you're not the idiot. What kind of roommate starts recording conversations on their first day? She's literally wrong about all of that and actually sounds like a psycho depending on where you live. And what uni this is, she may actually get into serious trouble herself. If she reveals that conversation, you're gonna be fine. Ask if you can get reassigned to a new housemate. Ask today. That's absurd. And her taping it is creepy and violating 100%. You need to beat her to the punch, go to administration and say you were harassed and then she told you she taped the conversation without your knowledge or consent, and was threatening you with it. They will help you. This is one of those times where you need to use your critical thinking skills. Story 4. My family is visiting and staying at my house. I keep a box with a few $100 in my room just in case I need cash. My niece did a chore for me, so I went to my box to give her a small reward. However, when I went to get it, my box was empty. I panicked because I knew I hadn't taken anything, let alone all $300. I asked my brother about it and he got offended that I would even imply that his family would steal from me. I told him to at least ask his kids about it, but he refused. I asked them myself and my teen nephew told me that he had taken it. I asked for it back, but he said he had taken it 2 days before and had already spent it. I told him to give me what he had bought then, but he refused. His dad blew up at me and told me I had no right to talk like that to his child. And I told him to tell his kid to give me the thing he bought or pay me back. But he refused as well. I told him that I would bring this to the police and he just laughed and said that it was only $300 and it wasn't worth the trouble. I told him if it was only $300 he could pay me back. but he said no. So I went to the police with it and I gave them the information they needed, which was surprisingly easy. My family lives in the same city as me. So the police came pretty fast and now my entire family is furious at me for potentially ruining my nephew's life over such a small thing. I think it's the principle that matters and everyone in my family is better off than me. But an outside opinion would be nice. Am I being an idiot doing this edit also? If I do get paid back, should I drop the charges? Not the idiot. Your nephew is the idiot. And judging by his father's reaction, it's not hard to see where he gets it in response to your edit. Regarding your question as to whether you should drop the charges, if you get paid back, that's up to you and your place. I would consider it only if your nephew and your brother offered sincere apologies, meaning that they both acknowledged that what they did was wrong and why. However, I don't see that happening based on their vast sense of entitlement. Your brother not only stole from you but basically scoffed at you when you demanded your money back. He refused to give you the item that he used your money for. That's some level 12 sense of entitlement on a dial that only goes up to level 10. It feels like OP's brother and the nephew stole the money together. Otherwise, why is the nephew so quiet about what the money was spent on? And why is the brother so adamant against holding his son accountable? I think the son is covering for his dad. Either way, your nephew isn't learning anything good from his dad. These people have no clue how much money. $300 is God. An extra $300 would help me with the rent and groceries. Obviously, your brother and his spoiled nephew have never experienced not having money. I think you learned a good lesson. Hero P, your brother's family are entitled idiots and you should do yourself a favor and cut that thief and his father out of your life. So I love to bake desserts. It's a meditative sort of activity to me. I really enjoy making tasty treats for other people, especially since I'm actually not a huge sweets person and couldn't ever eat all the stuff that I bake. Most of the time I take it to work. I work at a small restaurant staffed by about a dozen people, including the 2 owners. We are all pretty tightly knit as most of us have been here since the restaurant opened. Story 5. I started bringing desserts for everyone to enjoy. It was never an obligation nor did it ever feel like it. But I got a little miffed when I went in the day after I dropped off a pie to get my glass pie dish. And one of the owners handed it back to me. Still dirty. It still had crumbs and bits of pie crust left in it. I didn't say anything and just resolved to let it go. The following week, I made an apple cake and a glass to bring in and left it that evening, so the others on the later ships could enjoy it too. 2 days later on my next shift, I was given back my dish that was still dirty, and now it needed to be soaked to clean it because the crumbs and such it dried to a hard layer. I thought this was kind of rude as I'd been raised that if somebody gifted me food casseroles, etc., it was good manners by washing the dish that it came in when you go to return it. It happens a couple more times. So I asked the owner who was managing that day if my dishes could be washed before I got them back. However, the next few weeks, nothing changed and my dishes were still left dirty when they were returned. I decided that I'd just use the disposable bakeware for anything I took to work. However, I ran into an issue that sometimes the baking time and temperature for some of my recipes doesn't work for the cheap metal disposable bakeware, something I'd forgotten about until I took a pie to work. And when they cut into it, it was discovered that the bottom crust was a bit burnt. One of the owners joked that I had downgraded my equipment so they got burnt pie. A server said she'd noticed I'd stopped using glassware, and wondered why. So I replied that my glassware was never cleaned after everyone had eaten, and it was a major pain in the neck to clean it after it was dried on. Plus I felt that it was a bit rude to have my dishes returned to me, still dirty. The server shot back that the desserts were gifts and that it was actually rude to insist that the gift have to do something in return. Another server agreed with her and said that if I was expecting them to wash my dishes for me, then I shouldn't bother making food for them at all. So I said that I wouldn't if it was such a contentious issue. The server said I was being petty and are refusing to speak to me unless they have to. Now, I could see their reasoning that someone being gifted something shouldn't be obligated to do something in return. But I still feel that it's rude to not wash the dish that gifted food came in. So am I the idiot hogwash? It's not rude to expect the dishes to be cleaned. Who does that? It's part of the social contract. If someone brings in food, any dishes or utensils get washed before being returned. Were these people raised by wolves? You are not the idiot. I believe there's a difference between treats and gifts. It's just common courtesy to clean a dish before returning it to someone. They're ungrateful slobs who don't deserve any of your delicious treats. What bothers me the most in this case is that it's a restaurant. They have dishwashers, both the machines and people designated to do the job. Why can't someone get the dish washed? You are the idiot ordinarily, I would agree with you. If you gift a dish to a neighbor or friend, they should return the dish clean. However, in this case, you're gifting to a large group of people. So then who's supposed to take responsibility for cleaning that dish? In this case, no one person is being rude. There just isn't a fair way to allocate that responsibility amongst the random people that benefit from your gift. If you say the person who takes the last piece, I guarantee there will be a last piece left in your dish until you pick it up.